so thank you everybody for tuning in to the very first edition of Strengths Talk. I am Stone Bogart, and I'm StrenghtsQuest Ambassador here. Today I'm going to be sitting down with Professor Brandon Shaw, who is a big StrenghtsQuest Ambassador or StrengthsQuest endorser, and we're going to talk today about his opinion on StrengthsQuest. So to start off, well, thank you for joining us first of all.
Absolutely.
And to start off, we'll just let them know what your top 5 are, your top 5 talents.
My 5 talents are achiever, input, learner, ideation, and positivity in no particular order.
Okay. So what were your initial thoughts about StrengthsQuest and your results?
When I first took the Strengths Finder, no one had really told me any information on it, any background information on it. They just kind of said, here, take this. And I want to say that was back in 2008, 2009. So we didn't really have a big StrengthsQuest community at the time or a lot of conversations about it. So I had no real idea of what was happening. So I took the StrengthsQuest Finder and I found my 5 talents and I looked at them and I said, oh, cool. And I took it and put it in a drawer on my desk. And that's kind of where it sat for a little while until about 6 months later or so. I had to move the desk. So I found that information again and decided to read through it a second time. And it made much more sense to me at that point, and it felt like someone who really knew me very well turned around and gave me some information about myself. So it took some time for it to percolate in the back of my mind, I guess.
So it wasn't an immediate.
Yeah, it was definitely was not immediate. I didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid necessarily. I just felt like it was another one of those quizzes that you take online kind of thing at first. But then I did some digging and felt that it was very powerful. So.
Awesome, cool. So how have you used and developed your talents in your career?
In my career, one of the main things that StrengthsQuest did is that it gave me, a lot of people that talk about this, is that it gave me the vocabulary to talk about myself in a way that I had never really known before. So for instance, Achiever really put a definite picture of who I am, and a large part of my personality. It gave me that title so that I could use that and talk about that and feel okay with myself and the way that I operate on a daily basis. I like to do lists and I have to accomplish something with my day, and if I hit the end of the day and haven't, I kind of feel down about myself. And I realize through StrengthsQuest and that as my talent of achiever that's okay and that I can do those things. So for my career, essentially that's just given me more of a solid foundation in who I am, which allows me to be myself and feel okay with that, especially when it comes to working with students and other people, colleagues and things like that.
Okay. I know before when we talked, you've mentioned that it kind of validates yourself, kind of makes you feel that's okay who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it also helped you in your career, allowing you to be kind of your true self in your career.
Yep, definitely.
Cool. So how has StrengthsQuest impacted your life? It's a little similar question.
Yeah, like I said, it just gave me more of a validation of who I am and being okay with some of those things. The shadow side, we talk about the shadow side of strengths and how there is that being too much of a falling too much into a talent, things like that. And I know that happens sometimes with me, and that's okay. And it on a personal level, it just makes me feel, like I said, validated in who I am. And I recognize my strengths. And also part of that too is when we talk about the different domains, it allows me to understand why certain things don't happen within my own personal life. I don't have a lot of the activation type of domain in that domain, and so I know that when I need to get something done, it might be okay to tap the shoulder of a friend and have them kind of help out or things like that.
Awesome. So what advice would you have for students about understanding and using their strengths?
Self-reflection really did it for me. So looking back on how I have behaved my whole life, based on what my strengths are, allowed me to see that that's really how I am, rather than trying to alter my personality to what I think those strengths should be. So for instance, I would look back at my positivity. In my whole life, I've always looked at the bright side of things. And that definitely comes through in my attitude throughout my whole life. Same idea with learner. I love learning, and I love to acquire new information underlining things in books and keeping, that sort of information always around. That's how I've always behaved. And so that allowed me to feel okay with that. So in order for other people to understand, I think really looking back at their life prior to taking StrengthsQuest rather than moving forward from StrengthsQuest, to understand who you are before you encountered that, and now you have, like I said before, the vocabulary to talk about who you are.
Awesome. Okay. So what does it mean for us, MVCC, to be a strengths-based campus?
I think it's a really awesome, positive boost to the community, to everybody that comes here, as far as students, colleagues, faculty, staff, administration. I think everybody should take it and have this kind of attitude about themselves, that, this is my positivity coming through, that we can talk about ourselves in positive ways, and rather than working on trying to figure out what you need to work on to improve, this allows people to work on the things that they're already good at. And I think that's a really awesome thing to put into the community, into the college, and to have people moving forward with things rather than being stuck on things that they might not feel comfortable with or as powerful.
And I think having people with positivity like you selling this would be a very good thing.
Yeah, that might be part of that.
Okay, so last question here. It's what would you like to see as the future of StrengthsQuest at MVCC?
More people involved with it on a regular basis, I guess. More, I don't want to say more popularity necessarily, but more of a mainstream acceptance into the culture. I know a lot of people take it and use it and talk about it, but having it more integrated into what we do on a regular basis, I think would be really awesome and powerful. That's a long ways off probably. It would take a lot of conversations and a lot of work, and it's hard to get a lot of people on board to the same thing, I think, sometimes. But if people work at it, I think it can happen.
Yeah, so just trying to get StrengthsQuest to be a little more dominant here on campus.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. I really
of course,
appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to have you. Good to talk to you.